Welcome to the Biz To Biz Podcast, your number one source for all business news.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to this episode of B2B Vault, the Biz To Biz Podcast. We don't like to wear ties when we talk about business, and we'd like to talk about business, sales, and entrepreneurship here on the podcast. And the sponsor of B2B Vault is Nationwide Payment Systems. And today our guest is Dr. Stephen Greene, and he has a company called MakeTheGrade.net, and he helps business owners and executives clarify their marketing messaging. And we're going to talk about that today, and we're going to dive in with Dr. Stephen Greene. Welcome to the show.
Alan, thank you very much. Happy to be here.
All right, awesome. So tell us a little bit, how long you've been in business and where you're located.
I started this business in 1997, last century. I am located in the Philadelphia, Pennsylvania area. I have based my pedigree, just to be clear, I am not a medical doctor. I got a doctorate in education and educational psychology. So I've kind of made a study of business, entrepreneurship, from the motivational and the psychological standpoint. And what I figured out is that there's a lot of ways that how people communicate, how business owners, entrepreneurs communicate their service, their whole context can make a huge difference in how successful they are. And then the last thing I'll say about it is, and this really got exacerbated and really got highlighted when COVID kicked in. Face to face is really a different world. Virtual, which is where a lot of obviously everything went with COVID, is a very, very different way to interface, very different way to build and sustain relationships. So that's really where my niche is surviving and thriving in this virtual space, taking advantage of the ability to, deal with, people all over the world, but you got to be super clear on how you do it. At least
I
that's
remember during COVID, and everybody was like, "Oh, how do you do a Zoom meeting?" And before COVID, I would tell people like, "Oh, I want to do this software demo for you," and they would be like, "Well, we're in Texas." I'm like, "Yeah, no problem. Let me send you a link. You'll click on it, and then you can see my screen." And they're like, "What? What are you talking about?"
Yeah,
And it was like pulling teeth sometimes to get people on these like Zoom calls and then do a screen share and walk them through like how to use the software. They're thinking like we're going to drive over there and and do it. Now it's pretty normal. People are much more open to
Oh
having
yeah.
these.
It's
And it's
I mean I not sure this is something to be proud of, but I can spend 11, 12 hours a day on Zoom.
I
Between
spent
clients,
I,
between prospecting, just between life anymore, even family stuff. Like you hang out with your friends sometime on Zoom. It's easy. The thing that drove that too is technology. It's a human acceptance, but like I was working virtually in about 2016, 17 on AOL and Prodigy, if anybody remembers Prodigy.
oh
And
yeah.
you'd say, "Hello, Alan." It would go for like 3 seconds. Like we're dating. Maybe I'm dating myself, but the technology, in other words, Wi-Fi availability, high-speed internet, better computers, better cameras, better audio has really helped this. And same with podcasting. Podcasting is kind of a subset of this. Podcasting's thriving.
Yeah, when I first started my podcast, I won a contest from this company, and the guy was like, "Oh, now you can get this podcasting kit, right?" So I got my first camera, my first
There you go.
microphone, which I still have sitting on a desk somewhere, and it was now I'm probably 320 episodes or so in,
All right.
and almost 3 years podcasting. So
Yeah,
it's,
it's
and I always change it up. I've changed the studio. This is a brand new like studio setup now.
oh, it's looking
And,
good. Looks
so we kind of change it up every couple of months to make it, interesting. And, so one of the things, I always have everybody has problems, small businesses, because one of the big problems is figuring out your marketing message. And then the other issue a lot of small businesses face is where our competitors are multi-million or billion-dollar companies, and how do we
Hmm.
combat against that? Because we don't get, they can buy all the ads on Google, they can buy all the ads on Bing, they can buy all the ads on social media. They can spend more in one day than we can spend in a year. And so it's
A
always
career.
interesting how you have to be clever to like to get enough attention. So one of the things that when we were connecting, you were like, so here's some of the questions you had. So here's the two. I'll read the first one that I liked. What's the biggest mistakes early stage entrepreneurs make, and how can they avoid them?
And let me preface what I'm going to say by saying you must avoid them, or else this could kill your business. You might not even launch a business. So the biggest mistakes I see, and I'll qualify this by saying I've worked with thousands of entrepreneurs over my whole tenure, is they're so focused on their product or service that they neglect the other things that are very, very important, especially if they're solo and they're trying to run the whole shop by themselves. So they're focused on delivering whatever widget or whatever better mousetrap that they've created, or maybe not even, maybe they just have an idea or a service and they neglect or they don't perfect important things like their messaging, their social media, at least to a degree, their content, the way that they develop leads, the way that they close, even legal. I've had a few legal people on my podcast just talk about real simple stuff like contracts, because there's a lot of situations where people get into entrepreneurship, they start selling stuff, and then all of a sudden they learn that they're in a copyright violation. Some big company, like you were just saying, owns the copyright on it, and they close them down in like 10 minutes.
Oh yeah, we had
So,
that happen to us. We had a domain up, and then
uh-huh.
we got a thick letter from this company
Yeah.
that they own the rights to that. So we
Hmm.
said, well, we didn't find anything online, right? They wanted the domain, so they ended up buying it from us and giving us some cash
No, that's not too bad. Yeah, there you
for the
go.
domain. But I've seen other things where I visited a restaurant once. I saw the name outside the restaurant, and I was like, "You guys do know like that's a famous restaurant in Chicago?" And they were like, "What?" They said, "How would you know that?" And I said, "Well, it's, be in the hospitality business."
Hmm.
And sure enough, about 2 weeks later, the that company's a huge company in Chicago. They got served with papers, and
Yep.
they were flipping out because they had spent probably about $500,000 on glasses, dishes,
Signage. Yep.
tables, everything with the name on it, which is.
Well, that's a part of my point is this is homework you need to do before you go live and invest everything, and you got to make sure. And sometimes people just don't think about it. But in my particular lane, I focus on the messaging. I focus on how does the entrepreneur, how does my client, how does my connection communicate what they do? How do they? Because my background really is in the education world, so I'm thinking in turn the vision and the lenses I look through are how does this person, how does this male, whatever, how do they communicate what they do? Why they do it, who they do it for, what the value proposition is to their potential client or their prospect. And people think, oh, I have a web page, or I have a little ebook I made, or I have some kind of lead magnet. And sometimes unfortunately, they just gloss through it. They just want to get their stuff up there because they figure that lead generation is going to be on volume. If I get 1,000 leads, maybe 100 will make an appointment. I'll close 20 and I'll make X. You can stack those numbers so much more in your favor when you really put an effort and you get the right voice of how you want to do it. There's so much I could talk about here. I don't want to, just go off for 45 minutes, but I do a 3-hour workshop just on this. But I think it really the purpose of our conversation now is really just for the standpoint of awareness and trying to make entrepreneurs, even if they've been in the game for a while, aware that the messaging is so critical. A lead magnet, even the title of a lead magnet can make or break you. It doesn't sound like it's that critical, but it is. And there's all kinds of studies and statistics to prove this. So that's what I focus on. I focus on somebody comes to me and say, listen, I want to do this. All right, let's break it down. Let's make sure that what you're putting out there is correct based on what you really do, based on what you provide, based on what your audience is, what your ideal avatar is, and how they want to perceive things. If you're selling a high ticket item, presumably to people with more money, the language you're going to put in your lead magnet or your web page is going to be different than if you're selling a low ticket item to potentially a lower socioeconomic group of people. And it's not a bias thing. It's just reality.
Right.
So these are things that people don't think about. I guess that's why I'm here to help educate them. But this is essentially what I think people should consider. It's a long answer to what I think is a super important question.
Yeah, a lot of times, I'll see people and they'll think up a name for like their business and they haven't gone to go look and see if the name is available,
Yeah,
the
right.
social handles are available, and,
Yeah,
and
I
the
know.
domains. And it's super important to like before you start investing a ton of money to make sure all
Mhm.
that's available and gobble it all up.
There are so many stories, like the story you told about the restaurant. It's unfortunate, but it just happens. And some people think, oh, yeah, nobody's going to care about me. I'm a little business making
Right.
$100,000 maybe. And no, they care. And I have a lot of trademarks, and I have a couple copyrights, and there's services that search. So I actually have to pay. Just FYI, I don't do it to be like an annoying or a pain in the butt, but they search. And they search out there. They search listings, they search websites, they search filings, they search all kinds of stuff to see if there's a violation. I've had to defend my copyrights 11 times in like 8 states.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's annoying and it's expensive. And you always win. It's just tough to get a recovery, but it eventually happens. But yeah, again, to get back, I focus on the education. I focus on the idea of what do you really want? Because you got how long, right? What are people's attention spans now? It's like the attention span of a fly, right? You got 6 seconds to basically catch their attention, to do a pattern interrupt, get them to pay attention, to get them to understand why you can give value, and then to maybe click through to something. And if you can't do that in 10 to 15 seconds, unfortunately, you may not get a second chance. So the wording has to be right, the way it's styled has to be right, the messaging has to be right. It's I can't overstate how important it is, I guess. I get a little fired up about this because I've seen when people do it right, the success is like they can't believe how it's working. And when they do it wrong, they get so frustrated because they can't believe it's not working. And that's really it. And it's so the margin of error is not great. It's tiny. Just there's so little things can really make big differences.
Then okay, I see all it's interesting how that all comes together, from
Yeah,
the legal perspective and then like from getting the right, making sure the names are available and like your plan as a business person, coming together. So
yeah,
here's the other thing that you wrote that you gave me a sample question of is what is the triangle of success and how has
yes.
it helped entrepreneurs? So I was
Oh, I
interested.
love it.
Triangle of
Incredible,
success.
incredible question. Listen, here's the way I try to structure my offerings and my business is this. I believe there are three critical pieces to a successful business. And I'm focusing mostly on entrepreneurs, but I think this is true even at a corporate level. Number one, the one point of the triangle, one vertex of the triangle is your product. And this is the thing, it's so obvious. But how many companies out there, how many entrepreneurs are selling something that nobody wants? They believe it's a good idea, but it's like, why isn't it selling? Well, maybe it just isn't something people want. Okay, so you have to have a viable product that's priced at a point where people are willing to buy it. Again,
Right.
it all sounds so logical until you start breaking it down when I start to consult my people. The second vertex of the triangle is a system, preferably an automated system that can, within reason, automatically generate leads, put them through a funnel, qualify them, and eventually set up a conversation. Because I still believe I'm a little bit old school that the best way to build relationships is through communication. And ultimately, while you can sell automatically, You're going to keep clients better through some kind of eventually having a meeting. But the point is you have to have a system. Nobody wants to sit there and spend 23 hours a day on lead generation. The third vertex of the triangle is mentoring. And this is the place people they skimp the most. They're willing to invest in developing products. They're usually willing to invest in systems, sometimes overpaying thousands of dollars for somebody that promises they'll be on first page of Google in 6 minutes. SEO, whatever. That's just is. But mentoring, people undervalue it. And I'm not saying that because I'm a mentor and I'm a consultant, maybe in the same way you might be. I'm saying it because your time is your biggest asset, right? Everybody agrees with that, right? You only have
Yeah.
so much time. You only have so many seconds on this planet. So if you can save a week, a month, a year, and accelerate your ability to progress, accelerate your ability to sell, to make money, isn't that worth investing in a person or a group of people or mentors that can get you there? Sometimes you need more than one. My specialty is the content. My specialty is like one and two, like the product development and the messaging.
Right.
There are people that are coaches on all kinds of things, public speaking, uh, all these ancillary skills that you need to have, presentation skills. You want to hear something? It's in 2023, and I think it's going to be the same in 24. The quickest way to make money online, like if you had nothing, you woke up one day and said, "Oh my God, I need 10 grand by next month, or something bad's going to happen."
Right.
Quickest way to make money is you build you drive people to a mass event, a one-to-many event, like a webinar. Whether you do it through a landing page, whether you do it through social, you drive people to a webinar. You do a webinar, you teach them a bunch of stuff, you give them tons of value, whatever you feel like you can provide, and then you do a product offering at the end. So whatever it is, you got a, I don't know what I got here. You got a piece of metal. You got a silver
Right.
coin. It's one of my lucky coins. It's a cat. It's a tiger.
Cool.
Anyway,
Is
it's
that a
my
panda?
lucky. It's in Korea, cats are considered good luck. I don't know
So
why.
is that one? Is that a panda coin they call
No,
them?
it might be.
Oh,
It's from Korea. It doesn't matter. The point is, I want to sell this, right?
right.
What's the fastest? I got 100 of these. I can sell them for $100 each. I can make 10 grand. What's the fastest way to do that? Is you get the word out that you're doing a webinar, and I say, let me show you this. It's incredible. It has this, it does that, it cures this, it cures that. It'll make you, whatever. And if you do it today, it's normally X. Today it's $20, and you can walk away. You can only buy as many as five. That's how tremendous it is. But the fastest point between nothing and resolution is to do a webinar. Well, what's the biggest problem with doing a webinar? Some people are afraid to be in front of a camera.
Right.
Some people don't have the technology. Maybe they got the free Zoom, and I'm not knocking Zoom. I love
No,
Zoom.
I ask people to come on the podcast, and they're like, "There's video," and I'm like, "Yeah, there's video."
Hey, come on. We're two good looking people here, right? We can flaunt it a little bit. Now, but what I'm saying is that the fastest way to do it may not be the most suited for that person. Well, I'm a
Right.
little shy. I'm not comfortable speaking on a camera. What if people don't like me? What if I make a mistake? What if I start coughing? What if my hair is all, I don't know. Well, instead, I'm just going to make a landing page with an offer. I'm like, okay, nothing wrong with that, but you're probably not going to sell as much and you won't sell as quickly, but you can do it. So the point is that you also have to develop skills, right? And this is where mentoring is critical. So I can come to somebody and say, listen, I've done 400 podcasts. I don't know how many webinars, probably 2,000. I lost track. And I can teach you how to do it if you're willing to learn and you're willing to practice. Nobody's going to get great in 5 minutes, right?
Yeah, well, that's the
Mm.
guy who mentored me about podcasting. He's like, the first 100 podcasts are going to be horrible until you figure out, till you find your voice,
Mhm.
and you figure it out. But
It's
they'll be
like anything.
horrible
It's
because
like anything.
most people start a podcast and they give up before they even hit 10.
The average is 13.666 episodes.
Wow. Okay.
For everybody that has 500, 500, you got a lot of podcasts. Congratulations. For everybody who has a couple hundred, there's like 500 that are like less than 10.
Yeah,
Because
it's kind
everybody
of
gets off.
amazing that the podcast companies like Apple and Spotify don't like move them out of the. I think they should move people up
It's
the
it's
list.
sort of a self-attrition thing because The less views, or what do you call it in podcasts, the less listens you have,
Right.
you move down the ranking anyway.
Right.
But the point is that it's a learned skill. Nobody was born knowing how to do a podcast, right? You got to
No.
learn how to do it. Nobody was born with a microphone attached to them. Right. So you got to learn how to do it. You got to invest in yourself. You got to hone your skill. But isn't that exactly the same as sales, right? Is anybody, some people are naturally better with people, they're more extroverted, they're more charismatic. But really, sales is relationship building. I think most people would agree with that,
Yeah,
right?
one of the things, like I'll talk to new business owners or people at like a business incubator
Hmm.
type of situation where there's maybe students or people who are thinking about starting businesses. One of the questions I ask them when I get up to speak is, how many people think they're a salesperson? And then nobody raises their hand. And I'm like, well,
Right.
how do you think you're gonna sell your product? You have
Yeah.
to be the salesperson,
Yeah. It's
to start off, you
I
have to
think
do
as
sales.
entrepreneur is kind of this fancy French word.
Right.
Everybody thinks it has this cachet, but really the English translation should be a salesperson with nobody else helping them that's got to sell their own product and wear every hat possible. That should be the translation in the
That should be
dictionary.
the new definition.
It should be. That's what I say. No, there's memes out there every once in a while. I'll say things like, an entrepreneur is somebody who refuses to work 40 hours for somebody else so they can work 100 for themselves.
Pretty much.
It's pretty much what it is. Those of you out there know, who feel what we're talking about. But to kind of bring it back to your question, that's what the Triangle of Success is. It's a guide, it's a framework that I teach my students and others who are willing to listen. They don't have to do all three with me. They don't have to do any with me. But I think you got to take care of business in all three. And there's subsets to all of them. Like the product includes a lot of things we were talking about earlier. Is it legal? Is it not legal, like, illegal, like you're selling, but like, is it legally set up properly?
Right.
If you're selling something, do you have contracts? Do you have a terms of service? Do you have a privacy agreement? There's a lot of stuff you have to know about. Anyway, but that's the idea. And I have a really cool logo. I'll send it to you if I didn't already. If you want to put it on the
Okay.
show notes.
So if you were going to give new entrepreneur three pieces of advice as we're finishing up the podcast today,
Hmm.
what would the three pieces of advice you would give a new entrepreneur? They're thinking about starting a business.
Hmm.
The three
No,
pieces of
number
advice.
one is, are you willing to do what it's going to take? You're going to get tough when the going gets tough, because it will. And it's just the reality. I mean, there's businesses that have been around 100 years ago broke, right? I mean,
Yeah. Oh yeah. We've
the
seen it.
environment, sometimes it's the boat you're riding, and sometimes it's the water you're riding on. So that's the one thing I would say. Really ask yourself that. Number two is just along the way, be honest with yourself. Is what you're doing really working? And if it isn't, have the courage and the self-assurance to change. Because people get stubborn and they get invested in things, and there's nothing wrong with that. And sometimes persistence does win, but sometimes you're going down the wrong street, and you got to make a pivot. And then the third thing is, as we just got to talk about, search out more experienced people you trust who can help you, whether they'll do it for free, whether they'll charge you. You'll thank yourself later, because the time you'll save will more than be worth whatever it might have cost you to do it. And if I can throw a fourth one in,
Okay.
I don't know if the three was the way I told you to ask the question or not, but I more and more believe this too, is find other people you can work with and help each other. Like, in other words, network.
Yeah,
Put it out
networking
there.
and also create, some partnerships of sorts where
Joint ventures,
referral
collaborations.
partnerships and things
Yep.
like that so that you
Like,
can
I'm selling education, but I meet a lot of people in the legal world. I refer business to them. I meet people in the health field world. People need health insurance. When you go, guess what, people? You got a job, you quit being an entrepreneur. They don't keep paying your health care, which you definitely want to keep. Um, so, things like that. You want to make business relationships with people. And it's getting out of the scope of what we got today, but I could tell you, I got a whole formula on how to do joint ventures and how to capitalize on them. So, but those are the three things is be honest, know what you're up against, be willing to pivot if you need to, get mentorship and be part of a community. This is one giant community and we celebrate when other people do well. People get nasty. Oh, that guy made $5,000, only made 1,000. Like if they can make five, you can make five. You got to celebrate other people's success.
No,
Sounds a little
definitely.
real.
One of the most important books somebody gave me when I started this business was the book Who Moved My Cheese? And I'll never forget. I was like, what's this guy giving me this book about?
Yeah,
And we're at this,
that's a classic.
yeah, we were at this meeting and he goes, everybody go home and read this book. We're there to learn about a product and tomorrow we're going to talk about it. And I took away from that, a very important lesson, being in this, I've been in the same business 25 years now, right?
Mhm.
I would tell you Who Moved the Cheese used to happen like once a year in the beginning. Who Moved the Cheese now is like technology is moving so fast, right? Especially now with AI, like things are
Mhm.
moving way quicker than we've
The,
ever
the interesting
before.
thing about that book was by uh,
Spencer,
Spencer Johnson.
right?
I was going to say Stephen Johnson, but it's Spencer.
Spencer Johnson,
The
yeah,
guy who wrote it wasn't even really a business person.
right,
He was a doctor,
yeah,
and he was a very observant person. It's one of those things that's just so obvious. It's like, why didn't I think of that? When you
exactly.
read, and the book's not, it's only like, it's not like
It's a small
reading
book. You can read it in one night,
that easily. Or you can, it's like almost like Think and Go Rich. You can read a chapter or even a few pages here and there.
right?
Um, yeah, no, but that I would lump that into the concept of mentoring, right? It's personal development, reading. You don't, there's nothing in the entrepreneurial space you have to reinvent yourself. It's all been done. It's all been thought through. Somebody else already did it. You just got to figure out a way to do it yourself that fits into what you're comfortable with and what you're willing to do. But, learn from everybody else. They're around. You just got to find them.
Yeah, you just got to talk to people, network,
Mhm.
whether you're networking online, like I get invited to like these networking things through LinkedIn and you meet 10 people, you might meet somebody, or you might learn something from somebody in a business like that. So I want to thank Dr. Stephen Greene for being on the podcast today on B2B Vault. Follow us on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, or on wherever you listen or watch podcasts. It's pretty cool. You can watch on Spotify now,
Yeah, you can.
video, which is
Hey,
pretty cool.
can I
And,
do Alan, can I do a giveaway here? Can I give something away?
sure, if you want to.
I don't want to interrupt you in your
Oh,
closing.
that's okay. What's the
Listen, if
giveaway?
you go to www.getgreene, GREENE, okay,
Okay.
I will give you a video, okay? It's about 50 minutes long. It is the exact same system I use to help people develop lead magnets. 7 steps. You can start it, stop it. Believe me, it's a four-figure ticket when I do it. I'm giving it away. Anybody who's listening to this, getgreen.net. But green with an E on the end because I'm extra special. That's what my mom
You're
used to say.
extra special. All right.
Like the
Well,
color with an
that,
E, but I'm extra special.
that's really cool for our listeners. Go to that link and get your free download
There you go.
and probably come away with some valuable information.
Remember, I'm a lead magnet guy, so I'm not going to give you a crappy lead magnet.
Okay. Sounds good. So like, follow, and subscribe. And everybody, peace out and have a great day.